I'm going to show you 5 Cricut hacks that may change your whole crafting experience. Let me know down in the comments which ones you found helpful.
I have an issue, every once in a while I have an issue with glossy sticker paper. How when the sensor goes to read these 4 corners, it sometimes cannot read the black lines. It's a light thing, and it's because it's glossy paper, a reflection, can't read it properly. I did a whole bunch of print and cut with regular matted paper. See how it's not glossy? I have the laminate sheet just inside the black line, the black corners. So I cut off one corner to the one corner of this paper that wasn't scanning through the machine. I cut off one corner of one of the old cuts. After your Cricut does the print and cut and cuts out your design or your print and cut, you get left with these. You just toss the outline in the recycling. Well, I went and grabbed one and I cut off a corner and I taped it onto the corner that was not scanning. And I'll show you in a sec when it's done cutting. So I taped it on, made sure it was all lined up, like I cut it right to the edge I cut it right to the edge on both sides, right to the edge of the black, so I could line it up on both. I could line both of them up right. So I taped that down secure on the corner, and it scanned and cut. I'm going to cut these corners and put them in a box. If I ever have issues with this not scanning the paper properly, I'm going to use one of these instead of having to print off a whole other copy just to cut it. How to do a print and cut that is a bigger size than your printer. So my standard size for my printer is 11 by 8.5 inches, and I am sublimating a Christmas pillow, and on the back side I'm going to make it entirely plaid, which it ends up being 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters, which is way bigger than the standard print and cut size for my printer. So I'm going to show you guys how to sublimate a size this big with a standard size sublimation printer. You can do the same technique for basically any size sublimation project you need, but for this project we're going to be doing a pillow, and it's going to be 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters. So first off, I have my design already made up and sized in Cricut Design Space. Then I make a square the size I can print and cut with my Cricut machine and printer. Once I've gotten the size how big I can go with my print and cut, I put it over the pattern and I duplicate this square until I've covered up the entire pattern. Now it's very important to make sure that these squares don't overlap and they're lined up perfectly to get the perfect sublimation transfer on your sublimation blank. Once I've gotten all the design covered with these, we're going to start using the slice tool. But before we do that, there's a critical step in between covering up the design with squares and starting to slice this project to make sure that when I print it out and I go to sublimate it onto my sublimation blank, it comes out perfect the way I want. No, I don't want the design to not line up properly. I want it to be all aligned on the pillow, and I don't want to have white lines in between the different sections that I'm going to be printing. So once I've gotten all of these squares, I'm going to count how many squares I have. And for this design, it is 2 by 3, so a total of 6 squares. Now that is important for the next step. I have 6 squares, so I am going to select all 6 squares plus the design, and I'm going to duplicate it so that there's 6 of them. So I'll duplicate it 5 times. So there's a total of 6. Now I'm going to line it up just as the squares are on my design, and this will all make sense in a minute. Now, if your design is 2x4 or 2x2 or 8x2, you're going to want to duplicate it to the number of squares that you have and line them up as your squares show up on the design. For example, if it's a 2x2 design, you're going to duplicate it so there's 4 of them, and you're going to put them 2x2 on your Cricut design space, and you're going to follow the next steps the same. So once I have all 6 lined up, I am going to delete all the extra squares. I'm going to leave just 1 square for each design, and I'm going to make it that square position on the pattern. See the first row on the top, I'm going to make it the top corner, and right below it, I'm going to make it the corner piece below that one. The middle 2 pieces, I'm going to make it the top and middle pieces for the squares. And for the very last row, I'm going to make it the top and bottom corner on the end. Just like I'm showing you right here. This is how you want it to lay out. And this will make sure when you print it and you start cutting it and putting it all together, that the patterns will line up perfectly for when you go to sublimate, and you won't have any white gaps in your design. So once I have this part done, we're going to go into slicing it. Now, my design has 2 layers, so I'm going to slice each square in 2 steps. First, I'm going to do the solid red, and then I'm going to do the pattern as I'm about to show you. And then once I've done this for all 6 squares, I'm going to delete all the extra pieces, and then I'm going to flatten them. And once I have all of the pieces flattened and ready to go, then I'm going to go over and I'm going to hit make, and I'm going to start printing all of this out. And then I'm going to show you how to tape them together and line them all up so that you could go ahead and sublimate it, heat it onto your blank. For this part of the project, what you're going to do is you're going to line them all up so that the pattern is all matching, so that you know how to connect them after you start cutting them all out. Now, as you're cutting them out, you want to slice one side all the way to the pattern so that there's no white there, and it's very important that you leave no white behind. And on the piece that conjoins to it, attaches to it, you want to leave a little bit of a white flap so that they'll overlap and you can have more of a secure joining them together. This takes a little bit of time to make sure that they're all attached properly and there's no white in between the patterns and that they're all lined up. So just take your time with this, take your time cutting, take your time lining them up, and take your time taping it down so that when you go to heat it onto your sublimation blank, it will come out perfect just the way you want it. And then you just select all of them. You flatten them so that they're all attached together. And I created a offset on around the word flash so that it would have like a white line around the outside of the word. And that's more for the glow in the dark feature of the vinyl. So I print that off, and then when I send it off to the Cricut to cut out, it will cut out flash with the offset around it. And then so that I can cut this design out of the glow in the dark vinyl, what I've got to do is I just unflatten it. I get rid of the word flash and just leave the offset, but I turn the offset from print to cut, and then I can send it to the Cricut to cut. We're going to press the glow in the dark vinyl on the shirt first. And then once that's pressed, we have to let it completely cool down to be able to peel off the plastic top, or it will bring the layer back up. You got to let it cool completely. And then once that's cool, we can peel the top off and the plastic off of the vinyl, and then we can line up the sublimation so it's all ready, so we can press that on next and we get to see the results. And I have to say, I think this came out fantastic. I was so surprised, like it came out amazing. So the next thing I had to do, or the next thing I wanted to do, was I wanted to find a dark room, shut the lights off, and see if the glow in the dark feature worked. And to my surprise, it worked amazing. We've got this design almost done. What I'm going to do is I have to put an outline around the design. Once I've got it all set up and flattened, I got to put an outline around it so that I can print the design and I can cut the outline out, so that the outline will be cut out on white glitter HTV and the design will be printed on sublimation paper with sublimation ink. So this is the final results for the black shirt. We've got the white glitter HTV and the design printed on top of that. It came out amazing, guys. Direct to film, also known as DTF, allows you to sublimate on different kind of fabrics, cotton, blends, etc. You print out your design on direct to film paper, which is a special paper. You use sublimation ink, and you use this direct to film powder, heat it to the ink. And then once you do that, you can press your design on cotton, a mix of poly cotton blends. It opens up the world of sublimation, so you're not just limited to polyester shirts. So here you have it, 5 Cricut hacks that could change your whole crafting experience. Let me know down in the comments which one you found helpful. See you guys in the next video. If you want to see other projects I've done, here's a playlist. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Happy crafting.